What's going on, guys? Welcome to Tectatious, and today I'm going to be talking about how to generate a component library in Angular. So, why do you want to use a component library, or what is the component library, you may ask? Well, a component library is a shared collection of components bundled into a module or multiple modules and then imported into an Angular project in order to use that code in that project as well as many other projects. So, in other words, it is a way to make reusable components that can be used in multiple Angular applications, be it Angular web applications or Angular mobile applications using frameworks like Ionic or Cordova. So the whole point is to not having to write the component code or any library code again and again, and instead write it in one place and use that as a dependency in your Angular projects. To get started here, let's take a look at this monorepo that I got here. It uses NX and it's a tooling system to manage multiple projects within the same repository. If you want to learn more about NX, I'm going to drop a link to their official website. But in a nutshell, it's a very powerful tool that will let you generate applications and libraries seamlessly and help you manage and build the pipelines also very easily. So take a look at NX if you're interested in adopting that for your projects. But for the purpose of tutorial today, I'm going to be using NX to generate the component library for Angular. But even if you're not using NX, feel free to follow along because you'll still be able to understand what a component library package would look like. You can set it up yourself, and you would also be able to follow through the steps to package it and publish it to NPM, and then use it in your Angular application. So this is what my Angular application looks like at the moment. It's a very dummy marketplace application that showcases a bunch of products and their captions and who it was posted by. This is all dummy data. But what I'm interested in showing you today is that how we can take certain pieces of this out, put them in a component library, and then reuse them in other applications. So if you're in an organization and if you have a suite of products, but you want to keep your theming consistent, the styling similar, and so the standard way of doing that and a very recommended way of doing that is to build a component library where you would put these essential elements of your UI and maybe even logic into this library package and then use them in all your suite of products, thereby giving the users the same look and feel of the entire suite of products. So for this example here, let's take a look at this postcard, this iPhone 12 Pro Max, posted by John Doe. Now, what I'm interested in doing for the purposes of this demo is to move this particular code of elements into a component inside a component library. And this, I want to call it a user avatar because it has a username and the user's picture. Now I can envision this being used in multiple areas of this application as well as in other Angular applications in my organization. So I would love for this to exist in a component library, and then for whoever wants to consume it, whichever app wants to consume it, they would simply just call the user avatar component from the library and display it, render it on the screen with the username and the image source for the user. So before I start diving into the steps involved here, I'd like to take a quick second here to ask you guys to like and subscribe this video if you like the content, and if you'd like for me to post more videos like this, more videos on cloud development, Angular, React, and whatnot. My goal here is to basically share my learning of modern tech in the enterprise industry today and share it with you guys so that it's easier for you to be basically on the edge with all this technology and not just learn the standard stuff that's being taught in institutions today. So here's the project in VS Code. A quick overlook at the structure here. Again, this is an NX monorepo, so this is not too significant for you to understand if you're not using NX. But I'm just going to show you what I have here. This is a marketplace Angular application, which is the application I showed you here. And I have a marketplace server, which is just the API server for my Angular application, and of course an end-to-end test suite for my application. All this was generated with the help of NX, as I mentioned earlier. It made it seamless for me to generate these applications, and that's what we're going to use now to generate a component library. So let's get started. If I take a look at NX, there's a command here that helps us generate a library. So let's use that to generate our component library. I'm going to copy paste my command here, but basically what this does is it generates a library using NX. The name of the library, we're calling it component library. There's a publishable tag so that NX knows that we plan to publish this library to outside of this monorepo, such as to NPM, so that it can be used by other applications, other repositories. And then there's this import path flag that we need to add if we want to scope our component library with a name. In this case, what usually you would do is you would scope it with your organization name. For example, if your organization is Google, you would just say at Google. And then all your component library would be at Google/component library. So that makes things easier when you know that you're going to be publishing multiple packages. It's just easier to organize your packages that way. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to scope this by the name marketplace monorepo. So let's hit enter. So what this is going to do is it's going to build a component library inside my libs folder here. And as you can see now, I have a library called component library, and this is already set up for us thanks to NX. It has its own package JSON, it has a README in there, its own TS configuration, and of course a source folder with nothing in there but a module which is being exported using the index.ts. Now, what we want to do here is we want to move our user avatar component in here in this library, and then we want to use that in the Marketplace Angular application. So going to our application, we can see that this is the code I have in my application right now in the postcard of iPhone Pro Max, as I showed here on the application page. So this is what the element is that we want to separate out to a component library, and this is the template code for that. Just a div wrapper with an image and a span, pretty straightforward. And what we want to do is move this into its own component. So first things first, if you're wondering how you're going to do this without NX, well, it's not too difficult. You would simply need to set up a library, a project that looks just like this, and then you would need to do some configuration in terms of setting up your module, but that's just basic Angular stuff. The next thing you want to do here now is to generate a component. I'm going to call it user avatar inside of my component library. So in order to do that, we are going to type we're going to use the Angular CI to do this. So would be, let's see, ng component name, and then the project you want to add it to. So let's go ahead and do that. So ng gc, component name would be user avatar, but what I like to do is I want to place it on a certain path. So in my component library, I want to place that. So I would call it user avatar, and the project, the way you specify the project is with an equal sign. So project equals, and this would be the name of my component library. So in this case, it's component dash lib. And when I press enter, that's going to generate a component for me. So as you can see in the lib folder here, I got a user avatar component. I got the HTML, SCSS, the testing file, as well as the TypeScript class for it already created for us. What's also created for us already, if you go to the component library module, we already have the declaration for this. Now, the way a module works is that you can export a bunch of stuff from it, and then the consumers can import it. Right now, we have this one module here, and whenever some Angular application or project tries to import something from this component library, it's going to look at the index.ts file, and everything exported here is something it can refer to, but it also needs to be exported from your module itself. So right now, this index file exports the component library module, but you want to go ahead to your module here, and you want to also export this user avatar component so that the consumer can import this component. The way you do that is you use the exports property, and then you add the user avatar component. And now whenever any consumer tries to import this module, it will have access to this component as well. Moving on to the user avatar component, what we want to do here is you want to add some HTML, CSS that would essentially replicate what we have for the user avatar in the Angular app. So on the right side here, I'm going to load what the current HTML looks like. This is inside my Angular application, and this I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in my user avatar component template. And then I can go ahead and close this for now and focus on this. So what is this doing? It's using an image tag, setting a source. Now, of course, we don't want to hard code the source of the image here because we want the consumer to be able to tell us what image they want to display here. So in this case, all we would do is get the source dynamically from the TypeScript file, and we can call it user image source. And then in here as well, instead of hard coding the username, we want to get it as an input to this component from the consumer. So the way we do that in Angular is we can use a variable called user name. And then if you go to the TypeScript file, we need to declare the inputs that we expect. The way we do that is using @input from Angular core, name of the input being user image source, type string, and then similarly we have user name, type string, and that way our component should be ready to be used, but we're missing stylings here. So let's go back to my Angular application up here, and let's steal some styles here. So I already have the styles for that user avatar. All I'm going to do is copy that and paste them in my component library's user avatar component. All right, so once I do this, I should be ready to import this in my project. Now, I can import it right away in my project because I'm using NX, and thanks to NX, it was able to set some alias paths for me in the tsconfig file. So what it did is it used my marketplace monorepo org name, and then it's referencing to my component library automatically. Based on this, I can start importing my components from the library without even publishing to NPM. But if you're not following this with an NX project, I will let you know that you can simply go to your component library in the terminal. So for me, it's inside libs component library. And then the next step is to publish it to NPM. To do that, you need an NPM account. You need to log into NPM in your terminal. So first thing first for you, if you don't already have an NPM account, This is a page on NPM that shows you how to create an NPM account, and you can also create an NPM organization. Uh, so I already have an account created. I also have a organization created. I'm going to post a link to this article in the video description so you can follow along and get your account created, your organization created. Um, Once you have that, the next step for us is going to be to log in to the user account. So in your terminal inside the library directory, let me clear this. The command you want to use is npm login. And then it's going to ask you for your username, your password, your email, and then based on what kind of multi-factor authentication you set up for your account in NPM, it's going to prompt you for a one-time password. If you're like me who did not manually set up a two-factor authentication for this, you're probably going to receive this in your email as a one-time code. So I'm going to go to my email real quick and I'm going to grab my OTP. Once I have that, I'm going to come back to the terminal here. And in here, I'm going to paste my OTP. And that's it. Now I'm logged in successfully. All right. So once we are logged in, the next step is to actually publish the component library. Before I do that, I quickly want to have another glance at my component library structure here. You can see that we have a source, we have our README, package.json, and a module in here, component library module. So essentially what happens is, first thing, you want to build your component library. And then you want to use the build distribution files and upload that as a package to NPM. One thing to keep in mind here is to take a look at the index.ts file. This is where all the exports are defined for the module. So we are exporting the component library.module, but we're not exporting the user avatar itself. Now this is going to throw an error when we try to build it. So the way you can resolve this, the way I like to do this, is to categorize my exports. So in the base, in the library folder, which is the lib folder here, I'm going to create a new file, call it index.ts. And in here, I'm going to export my component library module, and I'm going to export the user avatar component. Once I do that, I can go back to the root index.ts file, and in here, simply export everything from the library folder. So what this would do is it would look at the library folder and look for an index file, and then it would export everything in there. So once that is done, we can go ahead and build our library. In this case, the way to build it is to use nx. So the command here is going to be nx build the name of what I want to build. In this case, it's my component library. And again, if you're not using nx, you probably have another way to build your Angular library project, Angular module or whatnot. Simply use that so that a generated dist folder can be used and published to NPM. Okay, so let's go ahead, press enter here. And there we go. We got a distribution package for our component library right here. And look at that, like it's full-fledged, nicely bundled node project, which is a component library in our case, an Angular component library, and it can easily be published to NPM now. The way we do that is to basically navigate to the built distribution folder of the library. In my case, my library was output to the dist folder here, libs and component library, right? So I'm going to navigate to that. So dist libraries component lib. Now, once I'm in there, all I need to do is publish it to NPM. And to do that, we would write npm publish access public. And I got an error here saying invalid name. I'm pretty sure that's because of the way. Okay, so the reason this is happening is because when we generated the component library using NX, we passed in a property called import path, and we set it to marketplace monorepo. But this is not what it should be. It should be marketplace monorepo slash the name of the library. Now, what I can do now to fix that at this point is to simply go to my package.json in the library and rename this. While I'm at it, I'm also gonna rename my scope because I have some problems with my NPM organization. So I just created a new organization for myself, and I'm just gonna rename this to market monorepo. And what you want to do is add a slash and then the actual name of the library. So once you do that, you can save it, navigate back to my NX root, and I want to build the library again because I want to save the changes in the distribution bundle. To do that, I would once again build it, NX build component library. Okay, once that is done, we can look at the dist folder and make sure the name is updated, and yes, it is. All right, so now we can go finally to our distribution folder, which is what got generated for us after the build command. And now we can try and publish it with access public. And as you can see, the tarball was bundled, which basically means that it was ready to be uploaded to NPM as a package. We got the details here, the name, market monorepo, component lib. Again, a note here that I did change my organization name here because I had some issues with my organization being deleted accidentally. But if that happens to you, you can always create a new organization and modify your library this way. Yeah, so we can see the market monorepo component library was successfully published. What we can do next is navigate to the NPM organization page. So let me see if I can navigate there. So go to npm.com, npmjs.com, packages. That's my organization, market monorepo, and voila, I got a package here, market monorepo slash component library. And I can click on that, and that's going to show me the README that was in there, and it's also going to show the versions. So right now it's on version 0.0.1, which is what we set it to in the package.json. So now that we know that we are able to successfully publish it to NPM, now it's time to consume this module and consume the user avatar inside our Angular application. So in order to use this particular module inside our Angular application, and the particular module being the component library, let's actually navigate to our Angular app. So for me, that's going to be inside apps called marketplace Angular. Now, if we go to the package page again, this guy here, we can see there's a command here that we can use, or any Angular consumer can use, to install this as a dependency. So let's copy that, paste it here, and press enter. And this is gonna check the NPM registry for this package and then finally install it as a dependency. And now that this is done, we can navigate to our package.json, and we can see that we have a new dependency here called market monorepo component library, and it's set to 0.0.1. So that's beautiful. Now any consumer can install this dependency using NPM and start using it. So in order to start using it now, what we want to do is, first things first, we want to go to the Angular app, and in the Angular app, you could either go to your app.module.ts, which is the global module for the Angular application, or if you have a more organized Angular application where you have shared modules and whatnot and components in there, which is what I have, you would want to go to the module wherever you want to give access to the component library module. For me, that's all part of shared because a component library should be used in shared components and modules. So I'm going to head to my shared.module, and inside of imports, now I'm going to add a new module, which is going to be the component library module. We can import this from import component library module from our organization scope. So that's market monorepo / component library. And that's it. Now we have access to this. Based on this, we can now go to the components postcard, which is where I still have my HTML coded user avatar, and it's simply just rendering it using divs and image and not actually using the component from the component library. So I'm gonna comment this out. And now in order to use my component here, I can use it now because I've already imported it as a module inside of my shared module.ts. So I just need to add the selector here. I'm gonna, on the right side, I'm gonna open my actual user avatar component. And as you can see, we have the selector here. Just copy that, and then coming back to the component code, you add it as a tag. Now, inside of this tag, we need to pass two properties. So the first property could be user image source, and I can pass the same image that I had here. Remember, you can always also pass a URL. So just go to Google, grab an image, and pass the URL here. Or if you have a local asset, like I do, pass it here. The second input is going to be the user name. And I want to call it James Bond. Let's save that. And let's see what we did there. Are we ready? We'll find out. So go back to the app, and voila, look at that. We got James Bond and the avatar appended to this component here, and we're not hard coding that code in here. We're simply using the component from the component library. Now that we have our component working here, we no longer need this HTML. We can also go to the styling file and remove this guy here because we no longer need it. This should all be coming as a style from our component. And that's it, guys. That wraps my tutorial here. To summarize, we were able to generate an Angular component library. We were able to build it. We were able to create an NPM account and an organization. We were able to publish it to NPM as a public package, and then we were able to import it inside of Angular. And once we did that, we no longer need to replicate this logic in multiple Angular apps if we had them, and instead we can simply import that into our Angular application. Now, there's a lot of automations you can add to this whole process, especially when it comes to building and publishing. You can add a script in your angular.json or whatever kind of pipeline you're using, which would simply build it and publish it for you inside a CI or even a local environment. That being said, thank you for watching. I will be putting up more videos on content like this with Angular or cloud development in general, or even just using modern techniques in today's enterprise applications, especially the large scale applications. Feel free to add comments in the video, and make sure to find relevant links in the description of this video, and hit the like and subscribe button if you like what I'm trying to do here, so as to motivate me to create more and more content and share what I learn and learn what I share from all of you guys. So once again, thank you and see you next time.